Hello, folks. I'm Mantra Emp. I'm part of Detention Resistance. Thank you for coming on this part two of this two-day event. We have Alicia Siu with us today, and she's going to be explaining more about her art and what it means from our voices, testimonies of forced displacement. So, Alicia?
Hey everybody, thank you for being here with us. My name is Alicia Siu. I am now a Pipil from Cuscatan, and I've been an artist for a long time now. I always loved art since I was a little girl. Always wanted to be a muralist. I grew up in Honduras and came here in 1998. I have a master's in Native American Studies, and this is my artwork. I wanted to honor the people of this land first and foremost. It's going to be Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow, a day that is unfortunately started with the genocidal tactics of Christopher Columbus in the Vatican. But now it's our time to show the resiliency of our peoples. And today we want to take the time to talk to you all about this mural. Should I translate to you?
No, that's okay.
This mural was an effort created by the Central American community and indigenous community of living in the diaspora in Los Angeles. They invited me to create a living visual testimony of our original question was, we saw the need to further and deepen the conversation of why our people are migrating massively. This is nothing new, really, but we wanted to really deepen the conversation of what is happening today and highlight the struggle of the Honduran people and the indigenous environmental activists and land defenders there, with the violence that exacerbated with the military coup of 2009 in Honduras. This mural is, the process of painting it was a collective process, the way that the content was decided on. And so a lot of the participants some of them were refugees from the 1980s from El Salvador and Guatemala residing in LA. Profesora Karina Alvarado and poetess Dora Magaña took a lot in the content and the discussions, as well as Aide Sanchez from Centro de Chantit, a lot of other students from UCLA and UNICA, and also, most importantly, students who have recently experienced the long and arduous trek of migrating north and had experienced repression in Honduras, and they were part of the student movement, El Movimiento Estudiantil MEU, as well as recent asylum seekers and refugees that have been part of social movements in Honduras. I would like to explain to you a bit of the symbolism that we decided to include. This is the face of a jaguar, and in the Lenca tradition, the Lencas is una cultura milenaria, is one of the most ancient cultures in the Mesoamerican bridge, and the Lenca have strong protocols of how to welcome people when they have been suffering from, let's say during the Ice Age, there was lots of people that were migrating south looking for refuge. And the Lenca, because Central America is a land bridge, the Lenca had strong protocols of how to welcome people and allow them to live in the Lenca area without having to impose cultures or impose anything. So they allowed people to live there, and then when the time was right, they could go back to their homelands. And that is why the Lenca people, we use the macaw feathers And we wear 2 macaw feathers, symbolizing that we are facilitators between 2 polar extremes, and facilitators between 2 peoples. So historically, the land bridge, pre-colonial, before colonization and domination came about in this land, there existed, and it still exists, practicing cultures of how to welcome people. And this particular protocol was called Huancasco. And right now we are revitalizing among ourselves what that Huancasco means. And Huancasco, we have created a beautiful gathering in Honduras, and lots of muralists and artists created the first muralism gathering called Huancasco. And I was honored to be part of the first one. So the jaguar is from the Lenca tradition, but a lot of Mesoamerican cultures also see the jaguar as a strong symbol, and mostly it invokes feminine energy. The female jaguar takes care of their youngs on her own, and also in the Lenca tradition, it means the jaguar is the entity or the animal that teaches human beings how to be brave and how to launch ourselves towards goals. Currently in the Nahuapipil area of Cuscatlán, the people have organized themselves in a confederacy, and there is a practicing confederacy called the Smiling Jaguar, El Jaguar Sonriente. So this, the beehive came about because I want to honor a maestro who recently passed away of COVID, and his name is Julio Lopez Maldonado. And he was a dear friend to us and our maestro. He was a Maya mom from Guatemala, and he was a researcher, had a lot of knowledge. As a kid, he was a beekeeper. And because he knew the Mam language, and also because he knew the socio-political, way that the bee organizes itself, he was able to read the Madrid Codice. So I want to dedicate this mural, first and foremost, to the countless people that have engaged in the long trek of coming up north, but also to my maestro, Julio Lopez Maldonado. And he taught us a lot about the way that the Mayan societies organize themselves sociopolitically based on what they saw in nature, in this case, what they saw in the bee. And so, as you can see here is La Melipona, and there's images of the Madrid Codice, which is one of 4 surviving codices of the Maya cultures. And the beautiful metaphor that we want to portray is that the bee, the Melipona, is the stingless bee, and the honey is used as medicinal properties. And the metaphor here is that when the bee when their beehive is invaded by a foreign entity, say a bacteria, or somebody comes and tries to destroy the beehive, the bee leaves the beehive, but then even after a few generations, they still have the memory of where their home was and where that beehive was located, and they come back to it and they reconstruct it when the time is right again. And I've mentioned this story to the Maya Belize community in Belize, the Toledo community, who currently won jurisdiction over their territory, and they are going through a process of organizing their land titling. I mentioned that story to them, and for sure that is how a lot of the villages have done it. Some of them have had to find refuge somewhere else and had to leave their homelands, but they have come back, specifically a village of Santa Cruz. And they were happy to hear that story told in that way of how the bee behaves itself. And so One of the ideas Maestra Karina mentioned to us is to incorporate the photographs within the beehives. And so, yeah, the technique of this is gel transfers. So they're not actual photographs glued onto it. It's the ink of the photographs. And with this collage here, we want to honor the victims of the Honduran 2009 military coup since then and to now, the victims of the repression. So as a community, we saw that one of the deep roots, seated roots of migration from Central America is obviously the extractivist model that has been taking place there since time immemorial. My people, the Nahuatl, suffered a genocide in the 1930s, and that's like a prime example of what is repeating itself over and over again, which is International Monetary Fund and World Banks, coupled with the military of the United States, allowing countries to, or forcing countries to take loans for projects that are extractivist projects. And then if the president does not want that, or if it's a socially democratically elected president, then that president is taken out, kidnapped, or assassinated, and a regime is installed. This has happened over and over again in our countries, all the way down to the South. And it was a surprise, a shock to a lot of people that this happened at the end of the 21st century in Honduras in 2009. I want to express the legacy of colonialism, and we chose to portray a mask of Pedro de Alvarado, who was a settler colonial in Central America, and who our people, the Nahuatl, we fought him, and unfortunately we were unable to stop him from doing what he did, but we are proud to say that we injured his leg. But what is curious about Pedro de Alvarado is that he is the same settler colonial who ordered the construction of the 3 ships that came to the coast of San Diego, Kumeyaay Nation land. And those ships were the ones that Cabrillo first came and began the mission system here in California. So we want to join this resiliency and resistance of the Kumeyaay people who first, with the act of burning the Alcalá missions, were resisting to colonization. And these ships were built by Mayan slaves, and we were resisting down south as well at the same time. And so this image here is Pedro de Alvarado as a judge, because that is the tool of domination right now, as well as military, is their judicial system. And a lot is mentioned from the testimonies of the young students that have suffered repression in Honduras, how the current regime of Honduras is using the judicial system to create laws that are false consent laws. So they create a law saying that they will take the consentment and they will ask the people whether they want a project or not. But it's a fake and false law, because they do not ask the rightful people. They just choose. Some of them are bought. They choose a few representatives. So it's a fake law, and right now in Honduras, this law is called la ley nájera. Es una falsa ley de consulta. And here is the judge confining a young child, processing a child as if he was an adult, or more specifically, a criminal. So we want to obviously highlight the criminalization and the mass capitalization of imprisonment, incarceration. And as original peoples, we see it more as concentration camps, and also with the memory of what happened to people here, the boarding schools and the whole kidnapping of children to be placed in boarding schools to assimilate and to dominate over. And the worst is that it threatens the fabric of our families, el tejido de nuestra familia. So yes, we wanted to show, this is Pedro Alvarado as a judge, and inside this area is the paramilitary of Honduras, and behind Pedro Alvarado is images of the current regime in Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, as an example of a puppet dictator. And it is well known that Juan Orlando's brother is involved in narco cartels. So behind the judge, we put the drug of Tony Hernandez, and he is currently being charged in Florida. One of the things that the elites of Honduras wanted was to expand the Palmerola base, which is the largest military base in Central America. And it's historically known for, Honduras is historically known to be a launching pad of the attacks towards Nicaragua, the social movements in Nicaragua, the social movements in El Salvador and Guatemala, and all of these dictators and militaries have been trained in the School of the Americas. And currently, this is the biggest demand of the Honduran people. The biggest demand is to eliminate military aid. And this military aid is disguised often as agricultural aid, US aid, humanitarian aid. But obviously this corruption in the government, they have the money, they steal the money, and they do not put it into social programs. They put it to repress the people. So in these photographs, going back to the border and Pedro de Alvarado, we included the Vatican documents of the Doctrine of Discovery to link up the legacy of colonialism, to show that these exact Huetico disease, or how do you say, psychosis of domination, as we see it, as original people see it, as a disease, is still being used at the moment. And they have used it through presidents, legal presidents, starting with the Vatican documents of the Doctrine of Discovery and the papal bulls. And specifically, Professor Steve Newcomb has taught us how these Doctrine of Discovery papers and the benefits granted to Christopher Columbus are actually, if you see the first Constitution of the United States, that is included in the index of the first Constitution of the United States. The benefits granted to Christopher Columbus to dominate over over heathens and infidels. So basically they come, they say, these people are not Christian, therefore we claim the right to dominate over them. So that's why we wanted to include the Doctrine of Discovery in the current border, and to highlight the fact that the Kumeyaay Nation has never ceded. We are standing on ceded land, has never ceded their territories to the US government, and are currently standing up because their land is being desecrated. As we speak, the border is being constructed over ancestral remains. Okay, so yeah, aquí iba. So in the images within the map, we included the Zapatista movement. So this mural is not only to show the domination aspect of their psychosis, but also to show the resiliency and beauty of social movements. the Zapatista movement and the current movement in the communities of Rio Blanco, as is the case of Berta Cáceres. And Berta Cáceres, this mural is an honor to her and all the people that have struggled against the extractivist model in Central America. Berta Cáceres is our leaderess, Lenca leader, who fought the Aguasaca Dam in Rio Blanco. And she was murdered in her home in 2016 by a well-known elite family, the Atala family. And her case is still in impunity. Her daughters are still fighting for the judgment of the material actors, but also the intellectual actors. It is well known that these financial institutions fund these projects, and they know that the repression is linked to that because the environmental activists and defenders are the ones being murdered. And Rio Blanco is one area, and Bajo Aguan is another area. Bajo Aguan is an area where there is African palm elites and fincas. And Bajo Aguan is known to have extreme repression against campesinos. The number of the victims is around 280 plus people that have been killed in Bajo Aguan. We honor also the people in El Salvador. Here is an image of El Mozote massacre of the 1980s as well, which is what I was talking about, how the CIA comes in and stops people's movements in El Salvador. And this was a very exemplary case and a very violent episode in El Salvador, as well as the genocides of Maya villages in Guatemala. And we wanted to show that we hear about these genocides, but to point out that these genocides happened in villages that they have found resources, for example, in the north central area of Guatemala, where most of these genocides during the regime of Rios Montt occurred. Most of these villages are located where they have found oil, petroleum, and it's linked to that. So to say that migration we are still suffering the consequences of the 80s CIA interventions in Central America. We show also Panama and the fight of the Nobe, Bugle, and the original peoples there that are currently fighting electrical line that will pass their territories. There has been open repression there too. They fought a mine in the center of their United Nations recognized territory, an open pit gold mine. And we honored Jeronimo, he's right here, as well, who was killed during the blockade when they were blocking the construction of this mine. And to say that the migration crisis is an environmental crisis, and also there is environmental degradation to the extreme happening in our homelands due to these mines. So in Honduras alone, 65% of the territory in Honduras is concessioned out to mining and hydroelectric dams. And these are open pit mines. We wanted to show the resilience of Afro-Indigenous cultures, and that's why we chose an Afro-Indigenous young girl, and she is holding the corn, which is our sacred food for thousands and thousands of years. She carries the seeds to urge everybody to see that the real fight is in saving our seeds and creating ways to survive off of the land, and to say that Central America is abundant. It's a land of abundance, and there shouldn't be any need to migrate. There shouldn't be any need to migrate because the land can provide for people. And it's these elite governments that are not allowing people to survive how we want to.
You can show the other art también.
Around.
Yeah.
¿Quieres añadir algo?
¿Quieres?
So right now we have the presence of a student from the movement in Honduras, and we're gonna ask him if he'd like to add anything. He was part of the creation of this piece as well.
Yeah, so Luis is gonna come on right now, and Alicia will translate
Okay.
everything, whatever he says. Dale. Yeah.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Nuevamente vengo y me hago presente para explicarles específicamente lo que vengo atrás. Alicia les estaba explicando un poco y yo les voy a explicar así lo que está representado ya en base migratoria y lo voy a remontar a cómo se vino a implantar todo el modelo hegemónico que se está viviendo bajo la guerra capitalista que hay actual.
So he would like to explain the hegemonic base of the capitalist war that is taking place at the moment.
Ok. Todo el caos social que está representado, todo el caos social que hay, muertes extrajudiciales, judicializaciones, y la mayoría son hechas a manos por personas las cuales son parte del pueblo, pero con afiliación patriarcal, en este sentido, paramilitares.
So the judicialization or criminalization that is causing the chaos, the social chaos, is created by paramilitary forces.
Ok, vamos a hacer énfasis actualmente, como lo están viendo, el centro de la atención por los problemas y conflictos sociales que tiene actualmente la base centroamericana, el Triángulo Norte que lo compone, casos como gobiernos genocidas que operan actualmente ahí, en el caso de Salvador, Honduras y Guatemala. Honduras es el país actual que tiene el estado genocida, ya que no es un estado de derecho y está sentado y amparado bajo organismos internacionales y sentados por bases estadounidenses en sentido influencia política.
So he will talk the migration that is currently occurring mostly from the so-called Northern Triangle, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and they operate with military governments.
Son que Guatemala, El Salvador y Honduras son estados genocidas que están operando bajo el mismo patrón.
They're genocidal states operating under the same model.
El cual es crear la crisis, no tanto social, económica. Bueno, ambas van arraigadas, pero la crisis en sí está en la base genocida que tienen. ¿Por qué? Porque fuerzan a los pueblos en el éxodo masivo, o sea, en el desplazamiento forzado.
And these governments that use genocidal tactics force people to leave their homelands and in forced displacements, massive forced displacements.
Sufriendo problemas como les estoy explicando, en este caso, se dan las compañías y en el caso del mar, con lo que están haciendo en el océano Atlántico, exactamente en la región del Caribe, que están con las bases petroleras, lo cual no
One
solo está
example
afectando.
is the northern part of Honduras, the Atlantic coast. They are doing oil digging or in the ocean.
Ha sido ampliamente demandado por el impacto ambiental que va a causar todo este, todo, todo este problema en sí, porque no solo abarca a las comunidades que son aledañas a las áreas, por ejemplo, que estén cerca de los ríos, a las áreas costeras.
It has been widely denounced that it'll have a deep environmental impact, not only in the communities in the coast, but all around.
Aquí únicamente no está representada solo una lucha en sí, sino que está un camino representado de unas luchas, de la mayoría de las luchas en conjunto. ¿Por qué? Porque se está violentando el derecho primordial, el cual es el derecho a la vida, cometiendo estos crímenes inhumanos genocidas actuales, exactamente en la región del Triángulo Norte.
So represented here are movements, not just in Honduras, but all of the area of the Northern Triangle.
Ok. Remontándonos a esto, vamos a poner en sí la base del desplazamiento forzado que hay actual. Ok, el desplazamiento forzado viene a causar que los entes represivos estatales, actualmente estadounidenses, mexicanos, son los que estén yéndose en conjunto, no solo esos dos países, sino Guatemala también se dan represiones hacia los desplazamientos que hay como caravanas. Honduras es el país más corrupto y ladrón que existe del mundo. Entonces, no está la condición actual para que una persona pueda vivir. ¿En qué sentido? En tener un sentido estable a su alimentación.
Honduras is the most corrupt country in the world at the moment, and that does not allow a stable way of living. And in what sense? In the sense that families cannot have, que no pueden tener food, basic necessities.
Pueden tener trabajo, no pueden tener la accesibilidad a poder tener una educación digna ya que buscan a privatizarla. Se están haciendo muchos crímenes inhumanos, crímenes contra la vida.
Or a dignified education, since they are privatizing education, and there has been several crimes against life, repression against.
Como pueden ver, está la representación de los menores de edad, en este caso de los niños. Vamos a tocar este tema así en este punto, en la represión que está y no el respeto a la niñez, no el respeto a los derechos de la niñez, sino que se les está judicializando. ¿En qué formas? Llevándolos a procesos migratorios. Es cierto, nadie nos ha pedido que vengamos, pero no venimos por una forma de causar un caos o una crisis que ya está hecha por el capitalismo. Solo estamos siendo víctimas en sí y saliendo en grandes éxodos masivos. ¿Por qué? Porque son cosas sentadas desde Estados Unidos, las cuales han estado no únicamente en Latinoamérica, sino en otros continentes. Se ha dado porque se dio.
As we can see here, it's the decriminalization and judicialization of children that are being judged and put into a migratory process.
Okay.
So and these mass migrations, it's not a choice. It's not our choice to migrate. As we can see, these are it's been forced because of the U.S. Presence in these countries.
Ok, remontándolos ahora a cómo se vino a ejecutar este modelo que está operando actualmente en el ámbito migratorio hacia las judicializaciones, vamos a ponerles un ejemplo. Cuando se vino a implementar la colonización.
So where he's going to go back to explaining this model of how U.S. presence in the area back to colonization.
Ok, la mayoría de las personas que venían en ese momento a hacer sus expediciones para hacer hurto, para crear asesinatos, para venir a generar el caos y la violencia implantada por reinos que exactamente están basados en la burla que está causando la comunidad europea con Estados Unidos al ver los flujos de la movilización que hay, que vienen con su ropa rota, que vienen por una forma humanitaria, y lo único que han estado haciendo es burlarse y otros aprovechándose, ya que en base a que en qué forma se aprovechan de la siguiente manera, dentro de los centros migratorios, se les
So
paga una cuota.
these same elites, oftentimes that began during colonization, so settler colonials that came here to steal the riches, are today making fun of our own people that come up and migrate north with our clothes ripped, and they are making fun of us. Es una burla, ¿no?
Yeah. Y les estamos retornando por qué el ejemplo del centro de detención, porque se están aprovechando aún del desplazamiento forzado.
And in the detention centers, they are taking advantage. They are even taking advantage of these forced displacements.
Utilizando la excusa de seguridad nacional en el caso de Estados Unidos.
Using the excuse of national security in the case of the United States.
¿Qué sentido? Por cada persona que está privada de libertad en este momento, están siendo pagados. El Estado está siendo pagado, en este caso, a Corsi, teniendo tan cerca Otay Mesa, en el caso le pagan a la institución de Corsi. Ok.
In what sense? For example, for each person detained in the detention center, Court Civic is being paid.
Todo este modelo, todo este patrón así, basado en leyes dictatoriales por hombres, impuestas por hombres, todo esto vino por parte de España. Por eso lo voy a llevar a que miren exactamente las actas que están traídas. ¿Para qué? Sin esas actas no se podía mover. Son las actas del Vaticano que están afirmando, en los cuales venían a implementar lo que es religión, aparte de religión, el saqueo de las tierras, y venir a implementar el reinado de España. Sí.
So similar to what is happening now is coming from these same presidents, these same acts, these same laws imposed by the Spanish crown to impose and dominate over people.
Por eso está este modelo salvaje, el cual lo pueden apreciar ahora.
It is a savage model that you can see. It's evident.
El cual se basa bajo intervenciones que hay de las intervenciones extranjeras que están para los países latinoamericanos.
Y tenemos dos preguntas.
Ok.
Están haciendo algo para sacar a los niños y devolverlos con sus familias.
Y los derechos humanos.
Are they doing anything to free the children and return them to their families?
Ok. Así de fácil. Dentro de los convenios migratorios actualmente no está la facilidad para poder hacer poder hacer el que no lleguen a separar las familias, cosa cual se está llegando utilizando pretextos, como les digo, de seguridad nacional. En este sentido, los niños son, en el caso de Honduras, son retornados porque ganar un caso de asilo no es tan fácil. Primero, para ganar un caso de asilo, o si traes, tiene que ser, bien, persecución política, porque aún la afinidad o la afiliación a un grupo político o incluso a un grupo religioso no te está dando el peso, sino traes un seguimiento directo por el Estado para que te puedan dar un convenio migratorio de esta forma.
So currently, Currently, the only way you can get asylum is political asylum. Before you said that they're using the excuse of national security, as is the case of the United States, using the excuse of national security to deport these children. And the only way you can get asylum is through political asylum, because through religious asylum, that's no longer used. ¿Qué otro? El religioso, ¿no? Y el otro.
El religioso, si no trae algo directo que tenga que ver con un caso de persecución política.
Unless you have a direct case of political
En el
repression.
caso de los niños, lo que tienen que hacer es lo siguiente. Ok, las comunidades que están en conjunto con la mayoría de las personas que están interesadas en hacer un cambio, ir y llegar exactamente, crear ese eje en el cual sea de la comunidad, es cierto, de la comunidad para la comunidad, pero lo que se necesita es que si no se está viendo ante la separación de familias, en este caso de los niños, esos términos, muchos han estado protestando, pero no se ha llegado a más, porque no se han ido directamente a las fuerzas mayores que están detrás de todo esto, se van a bases pequeñas y no se van a donde los congresistas. Eso tienen que hacer acá, tanto los grupos sociales en conjunto a los que ahora se hacen ver como otra parte de la sociedad, en sentido en el ámbito ahora los religiosos, que también dicen que están abogando por derechos, en este caso para que se dejen y para que cese las deportaciones masivas de niños. Tienen que patrocinar personas que están dentro de los centros de detención, porque si no se está patrocinando, siempre se va a dar la separación de las familias. Ese es un caso, siempre se va a dar. Siempre se va a dar.
Okay, so you're saying that the separation of children and families is ongoing and will always be. What we need to do is to organize a nucleus of our own community, and to directly go to the big actors, go directly to Congress.
Eso es lo que tienen que hacer, reunirse con los congresistas.
Have meetings with Congress members.
Implementar como comunidades la ayuda, la unidad. Por eso están las judicializaciones. En este caso, como no se han estado apoyando a la niñez, no se han estado apoyando porque no se ha estado apoyando, y la mayoría de las personas que vienen no hacen absolutamente nada. Están siendo retornadas a Honduras, y en Honduras las están agarrando agencias que van destinadas para en sí, como en el caso del INFA, que es para la niñez, cosas a las cuales no hay fondos y se van a enfrentar a situaciones peores. Por eso les estamos pidiendo.
And to address how financial aid from the United States is being sent to Central America. For example, they say that they're sending aid to specifically to child services, but these are not being used for that.
Entonces, lo que se está implementando es este modelo. Se les está llevando a pasar situaciones más inhumanas de las que estaban pasando desde el principio. Por eso, ustedes que están generando también las preguntas de qué están haciendo para que se haga, preguntémonos qué estamos haciendo todos para que se deje de estar las deportaciones y la separación de las familias.
So for all those that ask what can people do to for this to stop the separation of families, we have to ask ourselves what we can do for these to stop these models. ¿Cierto?
Ok, entonces como pueden ver, esta es la base, no es la solución.
No.
Porque la única solución en esto es siempre estar unidos, la unidad siempre, porque el hecho de que vengamos no es que somos una carga difícil de controlar o fácil de expulsar, venimos por razones humanitarias. Para que se esté ayudando a los niños en este sentido, necesitamos sponsors que estén yendo a dar el seguimiento dentro de los centros de detención.
People within detention centers we need sponsorship, sponsors.
que estén dando el seguimiento y yendo a los centros de detenciones para saber exactamente que se vea el interés.
To follow up with each cases and to see interest from people.
Okay.
Thank you, Luis, for your words. That was amazing. And now we're gonna wrap things up by showing the other pieces that Alicia has here at Centro Cultural de la Raza. These pieces are all for sale, and I believe her art show is here till the end of next weekend. So make sure to see it this following weekend. So right now we're gonna go see the other pieces. Okay, Alicia, vamos.
Okay, so these pieces, this piece, people ask me a lot about why I chose the bat, because currently there's a situation with the bats. But no, I made this piece in 2009, and it is another artifact or sacred object that we rescued from Suchitoto. And Suchitoto, that's where they built a hydroelectric dam, the Suchitlan, and people rescued whatever they could before the construction happened. And there was a spiral pyramid that was left under the water and completely destroyed. So this is how these projects not only destroy our sacred temples and cultural objects, but also environmental degradation. So this bat came from that place, and it's a small figurine, an ocarina. But also there's a story of the bat that it is a sacred pollinizer and also the giver of the instructions of the white corn to our people. It is said that a woman fell in love with a bat, and the bat's name is Sinacantli. They fell in love and they created a half human, half bat baby. If you can see the anatomy of a bat, it kind of looks like a human skeleton with wings. And also we have a connection because it's one of the only mammal that flies. So we see Sinacantli as a sacred being that also in the story, there is a famine, and during the famine, the father of this young woman tells the young woman to come back. It's because you left us that there is a famine. And she said, okay, I'll come back. And Sinacantli, before she left, told her to take her teeth out and to sow her teeth in the ground. And when the time was right, the people of the village saw that white corn was being born out of her teeth. And that is how we were given the gift of white corn. In a sense, it's mythology, but we can also see it's a realistic portrayal of how the bat is a pollinizer, sacred pollinizer of corn and main rainforest trees like the agave and also the ceiba tree. And so that's why I chose to put the lungs of the bat as the keeper of the lungs of Mother Earth.
Segundo.
Sinacantli, and this is our sacred tobacco plant. It's part of a series of sacred herbs, and this is a Mayan vase. It's a Mayan vase, and inside the vase there is remains of the tobacco plant. The images of the Mayan vase. These are the images that come from that. And I wanted just to honor tobacco because it's been desecrated. The way they use it in commercial cigarettes with toxics has become commercialized and corrupted in a sense. So I wanted to show the sacredness of tobacco in the Mesoamerican area, all throughout the Americas. It's used as a sacred herb to communicate with energies, to communicate with creator, however you choose to pray. It is said that the smoke is a way to take our prayers up to that energy. I wanted to just show the beauty of it. And this is Nahuapipil. a drummer, and just kind of to reference the silencing or disappearance of, but that we are still here. This is a friend of mine. She gave her testimony. I painted this in 2007, but she is a survivor of the Civil War in El Salvador. She survived by hiding in an outhouse, and she is a migrant too. She crossed multiple times trying to cross. So this is the classic crossing in Guatemala, el río. Puse los pies, I put the feet to show Tlaloc, that we carry with us our ancestral culture despite years of trying to erase us. And this is a child from El Mozote. The isote flower, very close to our people. We eat that flower, and a beautiful thing to know that the Kumeyaay nation here also is one of their traditional foods, the isote flower, to show how resistant our people are. Yeah. And this is underneath a beautiful phrase, el centro es de quien lo trabaja, zapatista phrase. But this piece I did for my thesis, which I wrote about the 1932 genocide of the Nahuatl in Western El Salvador. And this photograph is from the Museo de la Palabra, their archives. And I met the child who now works at the Museo de la Palabra, and the child was a survivor of the missile. The government launched missiles to the volcano Guazapa, and these are special forces of the FMLN, the Frente Farabundo Martí de Liberación Nacional, del Izquierdista de El Salvador. Pero I wanted to show that our people are not necessarily affiliated with the right or the left. These are movements that come about as a defense mechanism, as a defense defending people, life, and the land. And I wanted to show the continuation of this resiliency and struggle as indigenous peoples. The European concepts of communism and capitalism, for that matter, have come to divide us, but in actuality, we fight for the land. So that's why I put the Nahual spirit protector, invoking the tradition of Nahualismo, that we are born with a spirit protector, and Feliciano Ama, the image of Feliciano Ama from the insurrection of 1932, which is indigenous resistance to the coffee oligarchs in El Salvador. And what I wanted to say is, these FMLN guerrilleros, they had to take under their wing the orphans that were left, the children that were left orphaned during that time. The person that I met that gave me the rights to paint the photograph and to give more of a message to it, this person in front helped him survive during that time, and he was an orphan during that time. And he told me that they would plan the next day their military tactics, their tactics of defense. They would plan it based on dreams that they would have, and that's common. A lot of our people that I talk to, whenever I meet another Nahuapipil or a person from Cuscatán, a lot of people mention how our dreams are really important in our culture, that we often dream what will happen. And I think it's just intuitive capabilities that is very unique to our area for some reason. They would plan ahead in their tactics for the next day based on dreams, and that's how this came about. But we're doing the effort of, I've had these paintings for a while, and I would like to find a home for them, and possibly a person that would want to buy them. And we want to fundraise for making more art. So if anybody is interested, these are historical pieces. It could go to a center, a library, anywhere where people can see it. That would be the ideal.
Where can people buy prints?
For me, I can make prints. I currently sold out of all of these, but I can make new ones. And just contact me at my email, aliciamariasiu@gmail.com.
Yeah, Roberto put that up there. And any final words since we're wrapping up?
To support Centro Cultural, we are in the initiative of creating a historical 50th anniversary mural here, and they have asked me if I want to paint it, and just to mention it, to support Centro, if you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.
All right. So if you want to support the art, support her work, make sure to check out her website. If you want any prints, email Alicia. And all the art here is for sale and will be here and showing till this following weekend will be the last weekend, I believe. So yeah, thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.